Good morning, I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for September 25th, 2024. As we had been reporting earlier in the week, the battle is on at the United Nations, and it's not a battle that the unipolar order is going to win. Joe Biden gave what might be considered his farewell address yesterday. He sounded dejected and rejected, but still arrogant. I'll get to that in just a moment, but before Biden spoke, the UN Secretary General Guterres delivered a sobering talk about the state of the world with the threat of World War III and possibly nuclear war hanging over the heads of those who are meeting to deliberate the fate of the world. He decried the absence of what he called guardrails and red lines. And he said that we're approaching the end of the unipolar moment for the United States, in which it's the paramount, peerless superpower. And he said, instead, we're headed to an uncertain future. We are moving to a multipolar world, but we are not there yet, Guterres said. We're in a purgatory of polarity. And then he said, the problem is that there's no accountability. Well, the idea of a purgatory of polarity over which Biden and his war hawk controllers are sitting, that's one way of putting it. But I would put it much more directly. We're facing Armageddon. We're facing World War III because of the delusional policies of the war hawks who think they can force the rest of the world to march to the unipolar order of the United States. Now, Biden had some really crazy things to say, but most interesting was his comment, "It's your people that matter the most. Never forget, we are here to serve the people, not the other way around." Well, which people, Joe? We know who you serve, Joe. You serve the bankers, you serve the pharmaceutical cartel, the raw material cartel, the agribusiness cartel, and so on. That's who Biden serves. And the idea that he's working for the interests of the people is one of the bigger frauds that's been perpetrated on the world. And he was quite defensive in what he said on Tuesday. He highlighted his work to preserve democracy and to bring resolution to the disastrous wars in Ukraine and Gaza, as he called them. Well, his talk about rallying support for the Ukrainians was a self-indictment, because that's where we're headed toward a nuclear war if Biden gives a go-ahead to Ukraine to use long-range U.S. missiles to strike into Russian territory. He also reiterated that there must not be a war between Israel and Hezbollah and called for an end to the killing in Gaza. And he repeated his administration's calls for a ceasefire in Gaza and humanitarian relief. Well, he's done nothing to do that, because if you really wanted a ceasefire, if you wanted to end the war, cut off the support for Israel, which he won't do. Now, this led to very sharp reactions from other world leaders. Erdogan said, quote, "Those who appear to be working for a ceasefire on stage continue to send weapons and ammunition to Israel in the background, enabling it to continue its massacres." Very strong language from Erdogan. Jordan's King Abdullah II said, "The Israeli government's assault has resulted in one of the fastest death rates in recent conflicts. The world is watching, and history will judge us by the courage we show. It's not just the future that will hold us accountable, so will the people of the here and now." And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa spoke in favor of his government's moves to have the International Court of Justice to press genocide charges against Israel. He said, quote, "We South Africans know what apartheid looks like. We lived through it. We suffered and died under it." And he said, we will not remain silent and watch as apartheid is perpetrated against others." So you can see very strong language. Now, on this question of the United States trying to deal with humanitarian relief and protection of the Palestinian people, there's a very interesting article which appeared in ProPublica yesterday, written by Brett Murphy. And he makes the following point very sharply. He starts by quoting Blinken, who told the Congress last May 10th, quote, "We do not currently assess that the Israeli government is prohibiting or otherwise restricting the transport or delivery of U.S. humanitarian assistance." Well, what Murphy has now are leaked documents from two agencies of the State Department, documents which were given to Blinken before he made that statement. One is from the U.S. Agency for International Development, and the other is from the State Department's, I've got it here. Oh yeah, the State Department's, well, let me get it. I'm sorry, it's a little disjointed. The State Department's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration. And both of them concluded that Israel is blocking humanitarian aid. The memos from the USAID, Agency for International Development, for example, said that Israel is interfering with aid efforts, including killing aid workers, razing agricultural structures, bombing ambulances and hospitals, sitting on supply depots, and routinely turning away trucks full of food and medicine. Now, these were memos that were given to Blinken before he testified to the Congress. So Blinken knew that Israel was blocking aid. He knew it and lied to the Congress. And why did he lie to Congress? So the funds will continue to be allocated to Israel to continue the policy of genocide and ethnic cleansing against the Palestinians. This is a war criminal, Blinken, working for a gang of war criminals who now have unleashed Israel to attack Lebanon. And the danger of a regional war becoming a world war is very acute. Now, meanwhile, Zelensky's traveling shakedown operation is going to hit town. And he's going to be backed by Starmer of the British Empire and other war hawks who are demanding an escalation against Russia and Ukraine to, quote, save democracy, unquote. These are frontmen for corporate cartels, for the bankers such as BlackRock's Larry Fink, JP Morgan Chase's Jamie Dimon, the City of London financial operations. These are the people who pull the strings of Starmer, of Biden. They've chosen Kamala Harris to replace Biden to continue and escalate Biden's wars. Now, this can be stopped and must be stopped. And that's what the International Peace Coalition has been meeting each week for 68 straight weeks to discuss, with increasing numbers of influential officials coming to present their view of what should be done. One of the things that we proposed, which was part of what Erdogan said, is that you should use UN Resolution 377 to override the U.S. vetoes that prevent the UN Security Council from acting against Israel. Now, the issue that was raised by King Abdullah II of Jordan is crucial. There must be accountability. Accountability for refusal to negotiate new security agreements with Russia, which could have prevented the killing going on in Ukraine. There should be accountability for the arming and funding of the genocidal regime in Israel. And there should be overall accountability to stop Biden's permanent wars, his wars of depopulation, which are backed by aggressive and at times brutal censorship. Accountability. Who's going to hold them accountable? Well, that's our job. That's what the American people must do. And with the election now about 40 days away, there's still time to go to campaign events, to be involved in mobilizing, to demand that the U.S. stop these wars. And that includes the Israeli genocide, the Ukraine war, the threats against China, the threats against Iran, as well as the financial and economic blackmail with the weaponized dollar, which is not just hurting the poorer countries of the world, but is hurting Europe and the United States. Now, I have a change of schedule to announce. I'll be doing my weekly dialogue with Helga Zepp-LaRouche tomorrow, Thursday at 11 a.m. That's when it's live. And if you have questions or comments for her, you can send them to me at harleysch@gmail.com. So thanks for joining me. Take a look at what I've put in the description box as links, and come prepared tomorrow with your questions and comments so we can rally the population to overturn the policies of this murderous corporate oligarchy.